Hello and welcome back everyone, I am the Otaku, and today I'm going to teach you how to not suck at Sabotage. Sabotage is a new game mode released as part of the Bespin DLC. It is a medium scale game mode allowing up to 16 players on each team, with maps that are mostly focused on close quarters combat between infantry and heroes. For this game mode, the Empire has deployed several tractor beams on the surface of Cloud City to prevent rebel ships from escaping the planet. In order to power these tractor beams, the Empire makes use of Tibanna gas generators that draw from the Tibanna gas native to Bespin. For the first phase of the game, the rebels have arrived at a location where a few of these generators are stored. The rebels must fight their way through the Imperial defense, plant charges on the generators, and ensure that they detonate before the time runs out. If successful, the second phase of the game begins, where rebels must fall back to their extraction point and defend it until the transport ships are ready to leave. The first phase starts off with a 10-minute timer and 3 objectives, A, B, and C. As rebels, all 3 objectives must be destroyed before the time runs out in order to move on to phase 2 of the game. As Imperials, only 1 objective needs to remain when the time runs out to win the game. However, more points are awarded for every generator that is protected. You plant bombs on the objective the same way you would activate an uplink on Walker Assault. You walk up close to it, hold down the correct button, and you will plant the charge. In turn, you can deactivate these bombs while defending exactly the same way. And then the amount of time it takes for each bomb to go off is roughly 55 seconds long, and as long as a bomb is still active, the game will not end. During phase 2, the timer is reset to 5 minutes and there is only 1 objective for each team, to capture or defend the single extraction point. This is done exactly the same way capture points are taken during Turning Point, by standing in the premises until the circle indicator at the top completely changes color. The more people you have on the objective, the faster it will turn, and having people from both factions on the objective at the same time will cancel each other out. This means that you need to have more players from your team on the objective than theirs for it to actually capture. And similar to Turning Point, the objective will not turn back after being captured a certain amount. It will remain that way, making it easier for the Imperials to capture with each push that they take. Heroes in Sabotage are limited to 4 per team and only available to each faction during specific phases of the game. The Rebels always get their heroes first during the first phase, and the Imperials always get theirs during the second phase. Hero tokens usually don't spawn right away. There is roughly a 1-minute delay after the game starts or the phase switches before they begin to show up. I also noticed that all 4 of the hero tokens do not spawn at once, instead they will come one at a time with a little bit of delay between each. Once you get that hero token, then it's first come first serve when it comes to hero choices. And obviously some heroes are going to perform better than others depending on the map or objective that you choose to attack. But regardless of your pick, the important thing to note is that heroes do play a very important role and are often directly responsible for the outcome of a match, or at the very least that phase. In other words, good heroes that work together to capture the difficult points and then survive until the second round to ward off the villains can pretty much guarantee a win more often than not. Whereas bad heroes that let themselves get killed before even taking an objective are a huge detriment to the team, and that hero token would have been much better off in someone else's hands, which unfortunately is usually the case. So if a hero from the rebel team survives the first phase, they can continue on with that hero into the second phase. Once a hero or villain dies though, then that's it. The player will respawn as infantry and the hero token does not come back into play. Therefore, it's super important that you have skilled and competent players getting the hero tokens and putting them to good use. I cannot stress that enough. A full game of Sabotage with both phases being played leaves a lot of options when it comes to the best loadout. With this in mind, I generally like to make sure I go in with 2 loadouts ready as opposed to 1 like I normally would, often switching to the most appropriate one given the current state of the game and what role I'm trying to play. Now, because a lot of this is going to come down to playstyle, personal preference, and other matters, instead of telling you exactly what loadout to use, I'll just go over some of the best options that I think are available when it comes to Sabotage. Scout trait is by far one of the best for Sabotage. Rank 1 will allow you to remain off the map while sprinting and makes it very easy to sneak upon enemies or ninja objectives. Rank 2 will allow you to keep off the map even while firing at opponents, thereby allowing you to engage with opponents near that objective without sounding the alarm to everyone in the surrounding area. Then rank 3 will make it so you can easily take out multiple opponents that might be guarding an objective or storming into your extraction zone during phase 2, making for an overall very good pick on Sabotage when playing as rebels. Berserker trait is by far another one of the best options available. The tankiness and survivability that it offers would allow you to survive surprise attacks, take on multiple opponents at once, and storm that extraction point without dying as soon as you enter the room. Based on my experience, Berserker is pretty much the best available for playing as Imperials. Now, if you're going to be running Berserker trait, then you're probably going to need a heal, and nothing is going to help you or your team more than by having a group of players rotating their back to bombs during a team fight. It's also very helpful for surviving some of those hero abilities, and obviously necessary if you're using Berserker trait like I said. Adrenaline Stim will also go a very long way when paired with back to bomb, making you damn near impossible to kill and perfect for leading the charge. It also helps to counter shock grenades, which many rebels will use before assaulting an objective. I would only really use this though when paired with Berserker trait and back to bomb when playing as Imperials. Now, if you're not using Berserker trait or you don't want to limit yourself with double heals, then Disruption is good during all stages of Sabotage as either faction, giving you the perfect card for 1v1 situations, group fights, or disabling heroes. It can single-handedly stop an enemy team in their tracks when they make big pushes as a group. It's also my favorite item to counter other players who use Disruption, which is very frequent in Sabotage. Just activate it after they do and you're pretty much safe. Now, if you're looking for a little bit more utility, then Dioxis is probably one of your best options for Sabotage. Being able to completely lock down an area, it's perfect for halting an enemy advance or protecting the objective as either faction. Now, if you're more interested in attacking objectives, then Personal Shield is a great option for you. You can easily ninja objectives both offensively and defensively, and it's also very helpful during that second phase to stop you from being insta-killed around the extraction zone. Now, when it comes to blasters, we need to remember that Sabotage is primarily close quarters combat. Therefore, we're going to want a weapon that is going to give us the fastest time to kill in these situations. The SE-14C has the best time to kill in close quarters of any real weapons. Being a 5-round burst with a 1 burst per kill, there is a lot of potential and will pretty much guarantee to win many of your gunfights if you know how to use it. The DH-17 falls a little behind the SE-14C in terms of raw stopping power, but its automatic fire and low recoil make for an extremely easy to use and decent option for this game mode. And then the last is a new option, the EE-4. Contrary to what most people think, the EE-4 doesn't actually have a very good time to kill between 0 to 25 meters, but instead, because of this crazy spread it has, it's super easy to hit any target at any distance consistently, and that is where a lot of its success is going to come from. However, if you're up close and able to get a headshot on the target with just a few of those pellets, it can one-shot kill them. So if you want something more akin to like a semi-automatic shotgun that is pretty much guaranteed to take a chunk out of your target while sometimes giving you a really awesome one-shot kill, then the EE-4 is perfect for you. Certain objectives are easier to attack or defend due to placement on the map, distance from spawn points, and their overall accessibility to each team. The best example of this can be seen on Administrator's Palace, which I'm sure most of you have already played. Objective A on this map is extremely close to the Rebel spawn and very far away from the Imperial spawn. Just based on distance alone, it would be very difficult for the Imperials to defend this point. More than likely, you can kill whomever is defending it and capture the point before they can even res and make it back in time to defend. Objective B on this map is positioned rather awkwardly. Because of how close the point is to the Imperial spawn, it's super easy as the Imperial team to overwhelm the Rebels each time they plant the bomb and try to defend it. No matter how many Imperials you kill, they will simply spawn too quickly, have much less distance to cover before they're back onto that point, and will eventually overrun you. What's even worse is that after overrunning the Rebels, they can position themselves on top of that objective and completely destroy the enemy team before they even make it from their spawn to that objective point. So while the situation may seem unfair, and it is, that is only true if B is the very last point that the enemy team is focused on defending. Otherwise, there isn't usually that many people there and you have nothing to worry about. And last, Objective C is roughly the same distance from the Imperial spawn as Objective B is. The big difference here, however, is that the point is vulnerable from many different routes and it's very easy to ninja just by running in with a personal shield on. Defending it once you've planted that bomb is even more easy. The Imperials can only enter from one general direction unless they go all the way around the map, and you can actually go on the platform where Slave 1 is docked to attack the Imperials from their spawn as they come out the door. So clearly there is a strategy for each map and the most optimal order in which the objectives should be taken. Now obviously I don't expect you to learn some detailed strategy for each map, nor can you expect your team to just know them and coordinate with you. Instead, just try to remember that on pretty much each map there are difficult objective points if left in a certain order. So even if your team sucks and doesn't try to go for it, at the very least you can. And from my experiences thus far, most of the time it seems to be Objective B that is the problem child, so try to prioritize that one. This is also where your heroes should be coming into play. Like I mentioned before, correct hero usage will dictate the game. This is true for both heroes and villains on both phases. The best advice I can give you for phase 1 as a hero is to prioritize staying alive and focus on taking that difficult objective, ensuring that your team doesn't leave it for last. When playing as Imperials, most of what I already said translates pretty well. Objective B is extremely easy to defend as a last point on most maps, and you should make sure it doesn't get taken. Simple as that. Either the rebel team is going to overwhelm your team by pushing the correct objectives at the correct time, or they don't. Your real main concern here, however, should be the rebel heroes. You want to make sure that no matter what happens during that first phase, they do not survive for the second phase and serve as any kind of threat to your villains. Therefore, if you notice that your team isn't doing so well and you're obviously not going to be able to defend those objectives, then you should at the very least try to take out their heroes and make your comeback during phase 2. For phase 2 as rebels, as soon as phase 1 is finished, you need to make your way back to that extraction point. Be careful on your way back as the Imperial spawn will shift from their original point to places that are much closer to the extraction zone and often right on the previous objectives, which is usually the path you'll be taking to get to that point. Once you're back in the extraction zone, you have two different roles. One is to try and push the enemy team back by aggressively attacking them while they're on their way to the extraction point. The second role is focusing on interior defense. This means setting up traps, using Dioxis Grenade at the entrances, and swiftly taking out anyone that enters that room. The main turning point for phase 2 is going to be the villain assault. Once the enemy team has all 4 of their villains, a skilled group of villains can easily push the extraction point and take out your whole team, instantly winning the game. The extraction points are set up to be really difficult to penetrate, but extremely easy to defend after being taken, as you will notice from the way that the rebel spawn is set up and how there is usually only one way back into the extraction area once you die. Unfortunately, unless your heroes were intelligent enough to focus on staying alive to assist with the second phase, you probably won't be able to stop the group of villains from taking your point unless they flat out suck. If your heroes did survive, however, then their goal right now should be hiding inside the extraction point and waiting to destroy those villains when they approach. Going out and getting themselves killed at this point would just be silly and defeat the purpose of staying alive for the second round. Now, certain heroes like Nini Weenie are going to be a little bit of an exception, as he can go out, set up his turret, and nuke people from across the map with a pulse cannon. However, anyone else is unlikely to survive for very long and should just prioritize staying alive inside that extraction zone. As infantry, just remember that when you die, you need to get back on that point. It's very easy once the villains take over your room to get locked up at the entrance and unable to make it back inside. So even if you have to run in and die just so the guy behind you has a chance to take out a few and stop that point from capping, then it's completely worth it. You do what you gotta do to win the game. For Imperials, this is where the real battle starts. As I just said, the extraction points are designed with multiple entrances, but are usually easily defended, and they can be almost impossible to penetrate without a full group effort. The best way, however, to get a good head start is actually during phase 1. As soon as you realize that your team is losing the last point, and you're sure that it can't be saved, then you need to make your way to that extraction zone before the rebels can get back there. Even just one player can capture the point enough to make it very easy for your team to follow up with. This tactic is going to encourage your team to rush that point and assist with capping it, while also scaring the enemy team, making them panic and lose a little bit of hope. So strike fast, strike hard, and strike fear into the hearts of your enemies. For villains, the biggest mistake is splitting up and not going in together. Palpatine Chain Lightning can easily take out 6 players, but if he's the sole target entering the room, then he's not going to last for very long. If you stay together and move in as a group, you can easily clear the whole room. Afterwards, it's not going to take a lot of effort to keep the rebels locked out. As I said before, their spawns usually only give them a limited options for re-entering that extraction zone. Because of this, unless they have some extremely skilled players on their team, once you have cleared that room out, it's pretty much game over. So overall, Sabotage is a great new addition to Star Wars Battlefront, and one that allows for a much more strategic approach than we have experienced thus far with other game modes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did when making it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or even donate to support the channel. It really helps out. You can look forward to lots more great content on a more consistent basis, but until then, as always, may the Otaku be with you.